Hey beauties, this is Sharon with the Fit Life Center coming to you with another weekly Friday video. Today I thought instead of teaching a skill, I want to talk to you about something, and that is setting boundaries. I spend the majority of my time talking to people about the importance of setting boundaries, what boundaries are, why they're important. And I find that a lot of people struggle with the idea of setting boundaries because what they worry about is the reaction of the person that you're going to set the boundary with. They worry about the person being angry with them. They worried about the person talking crap about them behind their backs to other people. They worry about losing friendships or losing relationships. Now, some of that might happen, but let's start at the beginning. Typically, a boundary is based on your values. What is important to you, right? So, for instance, family. If family is important to you, one of your boundaries might be around the hours that you work. You're only going to work from 8 to 5 because 6 o'clock you want to be sitting down, you want to be having dinner with your family, right? Your partner. If you have children, you want to be able to be there for your children. Your value is family, so therefore you set boundaries or parameters around other areas of your life so that you can make sure that the boundary is a priority in your life, right? When we set a boundary like that, right, sometimes your job is going to give you some pushback and it's going to say, well, can you work till 6:30, right? Your boundary is to maybe acknowledge that you understand their need, but for you, you have to leave at 5 o'clock because you're going to be at home to be available to your family, by 6 and be able to have a dinner with them or whatever it is that you want to be able to do with your family, right? So, yes, your job may not enjoy that. Oh, child, his hair is flopping over, but we Afro. So, anyway, your job may not like that. They may not enjoy that. You may have to reiterate that to them a couple of times. You might have to, on some days, make some compromises. You have to be maybe flexible sometimes if a big project or something is due. But for the most part, you're going to hold on to that, right? What we have to be able to do is sit with our own feelings about it, right? The worry that your job is going to get mad at you, the worry that they're going to fire you if you don't comply, right? The worry that you're not going to be able to get whatever the projects are that they want done, right? We have to be able to sit with that emotion. So the first part of it is to breathe. Take a breath. Allow yourself to kind of calm down from the emotionality, right? And then maybe start to look at what is the truth. Have you ever seen anybody else set a boundary and maybe there was some pushback, but in the end, it all turned out okay? So maybe reminding yourself that you might be catastrophizing and coming up with worst case scenarios, and none of that might not be happening. Also, remind yourself why you're setting the boundary in the first place. The boundary is so that you can spend the time with the people you love. That is your priority. Work is important, but your family takes precedence over your work life. And when you're sitting down with your family to be able to engage with them, reminding yourself, this is why I'm setting that boundary. Boundaries are there so that you have clarity and the people around you have clarity about your needs, what it is you want. what it is that doesn't work for you. There's lots of places to have boundaries. There's personal boundaries, right? There's professional boundaries. There's intellectual boundaries, right? We can always talk about those things as we continue on with this discussion of coping skills, right? But when you don't have boundaries, your boundaries are porous. Porous means holes, right? Where you have a value of family, but because you have holes in your boundaries, all kinds of things just kind of creep in there. And before you know it, you haven't spent any time with your family. Or your boundaries can be really rigid, right? Stiff. Whereas when sometimes you need to have some flexibility, you can't, right? Because it's almost like it has become a control issue, right? We want to have healthy boundaries where there are parameters around it, but there's also some flexibility when there needs to be flexibility, right? Sometimes you have to be able to just pivot, right? You're still holding your value in place, but right now something takes precedence over that. You can make time. You can make sure your family knows that you have to work late on Tuesday night because a project is due on Wednesday and you have to work with your team to get it done. But then when that project is over, you go back to making sure that that value of your family continues to be your priority. So I encourage you to think about what stops you from setting boundaries in your life. Is it your own worries about what people might think about you if you do set boundaries? Is it sitting with the emotionality, the anxiety, the worry about disappointing people? Do you ever think about how many times you might have disappointed yourself when you didn't set the boundary and make sure that you kept your own values as a priority in your life? You can comment below, right? So we can talk about this thing, right? Because when you don't have boundaries, all kinds of things creep into your life. And before you know it, your life is no longer your own. It almost feels like somebody or something else owns you rather than your own values being the priority. And maybe you don't set boundaries because you haven't really sat down to think about, what are my values? We can talk about that too. We will talk about that, right? Because it takes time to get to know yourself and know what you value, what you prioritize in your life. But it is important that you know so that you begin to structure your life in a way that supports your own values. So I just wanted to make this video. I also wanted to be a woman of my word and keep posting these videos every week. So with that being said, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook under A Fit Life Center. You can also check out my website, which is afitlifecenter.com, where I teach people mindfulness and gentle yoga. And stay tuned. I'm also going to be opening a Fit Life Center counseling center, which will be done virtually. So I'll be able to see anybody in Arizona that wants to engage in some therapy. I like to combine holistic treatments as well as traditional therapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy. I will explain that another day. But to help you live well, right? That's why it's called A Fit Life Center, because I want you to create and live the life that's fit for you. You matter. You matter. good one.